Philippians 4, verse 12 and 13. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all this through him who gives me strength. Rasi Labuschagne is a fourth-generation Zimbabwean from humble beginnings with a cattle ranching background. I was sent to a cruel boarding school at 6 years old, 200 k's away from home, and I had 7 years there that I have bad memories of. I lost my dad at 12, which turned our lives upside down. We were 4 kids and my mom, and then endured the wild ways of the Rhodesian Bush War on cattle ranches throughout my teens. And it was a wild, rough era, and being crazy about rugby and water polo and the war environment created a wild, hardy character. And I'm telling you this because I believe that resilience is something that is learned. You're not born with it. You're born with fortitude, not resilience. And I think it stood me in good ground for what I had to go through later on. In December 2000, a bunch of friends and I went on a fishing trip to my fishing resort on Lake Kariba. And late one afternoon, one of my mates and I decided to go tiger fishing on the lake, leaving the other guys bream fishing in one of the rivers that flowed into the lake. And on our way back, we spotted 2 fish poachers in a steel boat, who immediately upon seeing us, started paddling hastily for the shore in an effort to get away from us. Knowing they were notorious poachers, poaching was a huge problem there, I drove my boat towards them to scare them off. It was very late in the evening. And the wake of my boat tilted their boat, causing them to jump out into the water, which was about 1.5 meters deep, and they were about 3 meters from the shore. They soon scrambled to dry land and ran off into the bush, and my mate and I thought nothing more of it. The following day, the police arrived with one of the poachers and accused us of drowning the other one. To cut a long story short, I was framed by the poacher, the police, and the courts in an ugly, politically influenced conspiracy, and sentenced to 15 years in Zimbabwe's prisons, of which 5 were removed as remission. On my first day arriving at the prison, I was Kami Maximum Security Prison, just outside Bulawayo. And when you go in there, they register you, and then you're made to strip naked. So they take a bag to the doors where you walk into the exercise yard, and you leave your clothes in the bag, and you walk in stark naked. There were 1,000 guys in there. Up to the court case, I was terrified. I mean, I knew it had got very political. It got to presidential level. So I didn't believe that they would convict me. But I was warned before I went that you're going to prison. And I said, there's no ways. And they told me to get out. But had I left, I mean, so much goes through your mind. I'd worked my whole life. My family were all there, my children. And then I've never stopped running, and I was guilty if I'd run. So that wasn't an option for me. They escorted me up to my cell. It's just one big cement block with 1,000 guys. It's ground floor, first floor, second floor. And I was on the top floor. My cell was 13 meters long by 3 meters wide, and we were 79 guys in there. So everybody got 33 centimeters marked out on the walls in chalk, and that was your space. The toilet was a stainless steel bowl sunk into an open 1 meter square cement block in one corner. And the lice were unimaginable. They just bit you day and night, leaving itchy, weeping blisters. And they never went away, ever. They were in your clothes, in your blankets, in your hair, on the walls, everywhere. Thousands of them. And there's nothing you could do about it. But I mean, we tried. We killed as many as we could, but it never leaves you day and night, year after draining year. And that was the toughest for me. And then in 2005, during the Zimbabwe dollar crash, Harare city ran out of water. For 3 years, I'd been moved to Chikurubi Maximum Security Prison after exactly 1 year. And I went in April 2003. And in April 2024, exactly on the 3rd of April 2024, I was moved to Chikurubi. And once the lorry ran out of water, for 3 years while in Chikurubi Max, each prisoner was allocated only 1 plastic cup of water a day. 1 cup of dirty orange city runoff water from a nearby dam carried by farm prisoners. That was to drink, clean your teeth, wash your face, bath, everything for 3 years. I watched over 2,200 guys die in my first 6 years. It was during the Zimbabwe dollar crash when there was no food outside of prison, never mind in there. During the cholera outbreak of 2008 and 2009, in 8 months, out of 1,200 of us prisoners at Harare Central Prison, 432 guys died, and that was in a medium security, not even in a max. That was more than 1/3 of us in 8 months. And that triggered something inside me about my health. And I want to challenge anyone listening to this to do a rain check on your health. Because once your health goes, everything else in your life will have no meaning whatsoever. And then loved ones. My darling sisters, in June 2006, due to the death rate, prisoners were allowed to receive food from their loved ones daily. My youngest sister sold her business and gave up her career just to feed me for 4 years, every single day. And I can tell you, I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for her. I truly am blessed to have her in my life. So the value of loved ones is huge. Without my loved ones, I mean, the warm home-cooked food they brought wasn't as valuable as the support and love that came with it from the visits. I mean, that just kept me going. And I'll get to hope and how much that meant to me, but friends is a huge thing as well. You know, there's a special unwritten code that bonds friends like we all share in this part of the world. The warm, caring, and considerate society we make up from all walks of life can never be equaled anywhere. And I've been all over the world. The warm, generous, and considerate society we make up can never be equaled anywhere. And I shared treasured memories with thousands of good people in Africa. And it was those memories and the endless generosity, consideration, and knowing what a fantastic bunch of people we still have left here that kept me going all those years in hell. The single biggest lesson I learned in prison was true forgiveness. And for me, it was bigger than anything I could have achieved on my own. True forgiveness was inspired by God Almighty. And so was letting go. It was a huge weight off my shoulders. And I learned to live in the moment from then on. You know, the past was too painful, and the future full of unkept promises. So I just dealt with each day as it was. I learned to have faith because no amount of worrying was going to change what I was going through. And if you have anger or resentment towards anyone in any way, it will eventually destroy you. Because that is what those emotions do. They steal from you. They steal happiness and freedom. And forgiveness doesn't change the person that hurt you. Forgiveness changes you. And we need to get that. We need to receive that. And the amazing thing was that it wasn't a gradual process. I remember walking in the exercise yard, looking up, and just saying to myself, Lord, take care of them and let me get through this road that's been put in front of me. What goes around comes around, they'll get what they deserve. And once I'd accepted that, my life in prison changed. And hope was a massive thing for me. You know, hope is the anchor of your soul. Hope enabled me to see that there is light despite all the darkness. And let your hopes, not your troubles, shape your future. My sister asked me during delivering food one day if I would like an iPod. I said, yeah, what's an iPod? She said, it's a thing that plays music. So I said, well, how big is it? And she indicated the small, flat little thing. So I said, well, how many songs does it play? She said, about 1,000. I said, no ways. So where do you put all the CDs? And that's how much technology had advanced in just 6 years I'd been away. I mean, it was crazy. And then the following day, the iPod arrived under the salad. And about a week later, a cell phone was sneaked in too, one of those cheap Nokia things. And it was exciting, risky business that you couldn't dream of in a maximum security prison. And everything was going perfectly until an envious prisoner reported me. After an unexpected search, unbelievably, through some quick maneuvering of on-site guards, nothing was discovered. But I was sent to solitary confinement anyway for 2 years. And I answered as best I could, but they were getting furious because they couldn't pin me on anything. And then the head of the soccer, he said to me, "You want to talk to officer in charge on your own?" So I said, "Yes, please." So they all leave, close the door. I said, "Officer, we've both been through hell. We've watched hundreds of guys die. I've donated endless stuff to the prison service, soccer balls, volleyballs, volleyball net, soccer boots and uniforms for the squad." I said, "Can't you let this one go?" I mean, the officers were stealing flat out as well. He said, "Russ, I don't care about you, but I want that God's name now." And he was furious. So I said, "Officer, I don't know his name." So he said, "Okay." He calls the officers, he says, "Put him on death row in the dark cell." They made me strip naked, gave me 3 worn-out, lice-ridden blankets, a 5-litre container cut off at the top as a toilet, same as solitary, and a litre of water. They locked me in there for 23 hours and 45 minutes a day. So I was allowed out 5 minutes in the morning to clean my teeth, 5 minutes at 10 o'clock to have a shower, 5 minutes at 3 o'clock to prepare for lockup. It was cold, lonely and dark, like being buried alive. Desperate on day 6, got on my knees and I prayed. And I'll never forget the feeling of like warm water being poured over me and a total sense of calmness. So I sat on the floor leaning against the wall, and within 30 minutes I faintly heard my Afrikaans mate shouting from the soccer ground, "Hey Ras, everything's okay my mate, don't worry, everything's okay." So I jumped up, I said, "Hey fool," I said, "Don't worry Ras, everything's okay." So I said, "Okay." Lay down on the concrete looking up at the darkness. Within 10 minutes I unlocked my door. And the sound of those locks goes right through you. Check me in my clothes. Said, "The officer in charge wants to see you." And his exact words were, he said, "Hello, Russ." I said, "Hello, officer." He said, "Have you remembered the God's name yet?" I said, "No, officer." He said, "I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave it in God's hands. You can go back to your cell." And at the exact moment when I was praying, my sister was paying him $200 to get me out of there. And that was a huge turning point in my spiritual walk. But some of the other positive things that I experienced in prison was I was moved to a farm prison after 8 years. And there's about 100 carefully selected prisoners that run a farm for the prison service. And it's totally on trust. So there's no bars and fences and all that. And now I appreciate the everyday little things in life. Whatever is good for you, do more of it. And I honestly say this, I thank the Lord for my 10 years in prison now, because I'm a better person now than I would have been had I not gone to prison. And I believe it's made me able to reach out to people to tell them that God is out there. He loves you and He has a plan for each and every one of you.
Stuur jou getuienis na getuig@lig.co.za.